Random shoes.
Let's It's time to talk about Love and Monsters. I mean Love and Monsters. I mean Love and Monsters. I mean random shoes. But you open this one because you seem eager to talk about this one.
I just am trying to understand what is the thinking behind this episode. I still don't understand why did he take pictures of shoes? Was that to identify his attackers?
I think the idea is he wanted to take pictures without alerting them to it. Not really sure that would have worked given that they would have just wore different shoes possibly.
Yes.
I don't know. Well, whatever. Okay. Premise of the episode, it's literally Love and Monsters. We have a random guy who's just kind of an average nerdy dude who is a fan of our main characters and is constantly trying to seek them out and have interactions with them. The only difference is he's dead. And yeah, that's a pretty big difference, but number X whatever episodes that I've have memories of watching at some point way younger. But I honestly forgot that this was an episode. And when it opens, I'm like, wait a minute, I forgot that we did this. This is where this episode is? Is it just weird to have it placed here?
Filler. I mean, it's like you can kind of place it anywhere.
Is it just me, or would it not have been like way more impactful to introduce the character of Eugene prior to this episode?
Yeah.
Like, give him a couple of scenes across episodes earlier than this where he's trying to like interact with them and stuff. It's like a quirky side character. And then we open this episode with him dead. Like, what happened? Like, oh gosh, what's going on? And then we like fill out his backstory and stuff like that. I don't know. That seems like the natural way to do this episode to me is like with a little bit of setup, right?
Yeah. This is kind of funky because they just introduced this character that we never seen, never heard about, and it's all self-contained. By the end of it, it's just kind of weird. Maybe they just made this episode because they were like, oh, we need one more. Okay, let's make this nerd guy up and basically make Love and Monsters again.
Yeah, and it's so weird because maybe the reason I feel like it's out of place in the season is because it really is just out of place for this show. We've talked a lot in pretty much every episode up to now about how unendingly cynical this show is. And like you compare it to something like Doctor Who or especially the Sarah Jane Adventures, and it's just sort of a constant barrage of people are terrible, the world is terrible, the universe is scary and awful, and like all of these characters are very broken, very not nice people, and even Gwen, who is the nicest of them, is slowly getting corrupted and made worse, and everything is just kind of really, really downbeat. Most of the episodes end on downers. And then suddenly, like in the latter half of your season, we have this episode about this really kind of endearingly dorky guy that's all very uplifting and sort of quirky and fun, and it ends on a really sort of like positive-ish note when he finally like ascends, like the visual presentation of his final going off. We just watched the last episode was literally the one that's like goes in the most depth about like when you die, like there's nothing waiting for you, it's just nothing. The character we just got done talking about was so desperate to avoid dying again that she's willing to just kill whoever she has to, manipulate whoever she has to, and you understand it because what's waiting for you after you die is just that miserable. Nothing in this episode necessarily contradicts that, but the way that it ends, just the visual presentation of Eugene finally going off, like he starts to get surrounded by a heavenly glow and the music swells and it's all uplifting and he starts to rise into the sky. Nothing about that in canon contradicts what we've heard about death so far. But if you're communicating what you're trying to communicate to the audience is that he's like going up to heaven or something, and it's like this is so out of place for
Yeah.
this show.
It doesn't fit. It feels more like a Doctor Who episode. Yeah, it
It
doesn't
really
fit.
does.
It's very funky. It's just a bit weird, and that was the point where me and my mom started to die when he started
And
to
it's
ascend. He started laughing and couldn't stop, and it almost killed us.
yeah, and it's especially jarring when this episode is another one that reminds me like, oh wow, this is a show where we just casually drop the F bomb. Like, I don't know why, but I always forget that with this show, and it's always super jarring to me when it happens.
I think because they only do it like very rarely. It's just like once in a while.
We really start to do it like once an episode in these last few,
Okay,
and
I
it's
don't remember, so we'll see.
like starting here, I think we can like find at least one F-bomb per episode. Wow, like I know that this is the mature Doctor Who spinoff, but that always catches me off guard. Like, geez, guys. I honestly wonder if you and your mom would have had the reaction that you did to that ending if this were just a Doctor Who episode. But
Probably. Because
it is still silly. I know that. It's still silly, but all of these shows have elements of silliness to them. I
mhm,
just think it's worse because this kind of silly is so out of place for this series.
it doesn't gel with the rest of the series. Yeah, that's exactly why it doesn't work. It just feels like a Love and the Monster ripoff for Torchwood.
Which, to be fair, I think it's better than Love and Monsters. I think.
Probably. I don't know. They're both pretty bad for me on different levels. But this one, I guess this one more harmless. The ending is where I just kind of lost it. Now it started to ascend. It was like, oh dear God.
Yeah. I maintain I give Love and like when I say it's better than Love and Monsters, I don't mean by any significant margin. I mean like it's at best all right. Love and Monsters isn't like god awful, as many people attest that it is, but I only give that episode like really two things, which is that I like, for the most part, how it's coy about the unreliable narrator stuff, and I like the scenes with Jackie. And outside of that, that's a very, very, very mediocre episode. It's just not compelling. This one's not particularly compelling either, but it's like I'm curious enough. I like that it's a mystery. The thing that it has over Love and Monsters
Yeah.
is that I'm at least somewhat interested to be like, okay, how did this happen? Why is he following Gwen around? How is he able to do this? What's the deal with all of his friends? If nothing else, I'm interested in the episode because I want answers.
I'll give the episode that just for the mystery and everything. It has that going for it at least. Also, I gotta say, why did he believe that the little rock was an actual alien eye or something?
Well, one, because he was an impressionable kid, and two, because all of this stuff was going terrible for him, and his friends didn't like him, and his dad left, and he just needed something to throw all of his attention to, hopes for the future on. And that's kind of the point of the episode, is that, like, you're right, that's really silly and dumb and pathetic, and the episode is saying, look at this pathetic loser. He wasted his entire life, like from his childhood to his death, all of it wasted because he let himself get hung up on one mistake that he made, and that made him scared to actually live his life. I'll just spend my life waiting for the alien because the alien will come back for his eye and he'll tell me what to do with myself. He'll give me a reason for being, all that stuff. Even if what you have is an actual genuine alien artifact, like you can have an interest in aliens, cool, great, but live your own life, man. And that's what the episode is saying. It has like no bones about like, no, this guy really is just sad.
They do make fun of him a lot. I just would think after a while somebody would just grow out of that unless they were that just delusional.
And
Because
he is.
yeah, I guess so. I mean, he does have like Rice Krispie rocks, so I don't know if you remember that part.
Like he has a couple of friends, and like looking at his friends, we can see that they're all almost or just as sad as he is. One of them is just a complete selfish, short-sighted idiot. The other one is just kind of your normal office schlub who seemed kind of codependent on him. The other one is this girl who seems very insecure. His little brother is completely miserable and like a cynical little like jackass. His mom is sad, his dad's gone. This guy's whole life, his whole circle is just miserable. And so like of course he ended up this way. Like of course he did.
Poor guy. All he had was a rock and banana smoothies.
I think it does a better job building this character than it had a right to.
Yeah.
Like, I know who this guy is, I know how he got this way, and it makes perfect sense to me.
Okay, I give it that too, but like I said, it still does fit, and some of the stuff is unintentionally funny, like Love and Monsters.
Some of the stuff is also intentionally funny, and it's like this isn't like a laugh out loud episode or anything, but there's some comedic bits that I like.
But yeah,
Also, is it just me, or were some of Eugene's lines like weirdly ADR'd? There's one or two moments where he says something and it sounds like it's being said from a sound booth. Like it's really weird.
I did not notice that.
How do you feel about the stuff with his dad? The fact that he would leave in the first place and the impact that that's supposed to have on Eugene. I'm not sure to what extent I buy the stuff that we do with his dad, like that he would leave at all because his son goofed on like a school competition type thing.
Hmm.
Like he takes the day off work and he's really mad about it, and maybe the fact that Eugene like completely closes himself off and obsesses over the alien stuff like contributes to that, but that's another thing that we're kind of vague on. The fact that he'd been living close by the whole time, it's like I'm just not sure to what extent that's supposed to tie into what we're doing with the mystery and the don't waste your life stuff. I don't know. Like I don't know if any of the stuff with the dad contributes all that much to this episode.
Maybe they wanted to try to put in the episode that his dad didn't actually leave over this one dumb moment, and it was just a combination of things. Don't blame yourself. But the problem is the episode is a bit too vague about that, so it comes across like this might have been just a tipping point for him, but in reality, there's a bunch of other things that caused him to leave. That might be it. But like I said, it's too vague, so I'm not sure if the episode does anything with it, or is it just me projecting, or me just trying to figure out what they're trying to say with it.
I don't know. I don't want to read too much into it because this isn't like an empty, hollow episode, but I don't want to give it too much credit. It really does kind of feel like a weird, tonally out of place, silly kind of aversion or diversion from the rest of this show. And it's like, I don't dislike it, but it's just, I feel for this one what you feel for the majority of this show, which is it's just kind of there.
Yeah, that's basically what it's like, but this one has a more positive note that doesn't quite fit in. Everything else in this series has been like whiskey, and this is the banana smoothie.
That's an incredible comparison. That's these two episodes done and dusted, and the next one, oh boy. I hope you're ready to deal with Owen's baggage.
Oh, joy. My favorite character. Bye.
See everybody next time.